Hi everybody, so this is the video where I want to talk about the article Attraction Will Always Defy Social Justice. And I'm starting with this one because I think it leads to interesting things for people to write about. It's fairly short and easier than some to understand. So the article by Karol Markowicz begins with an introduction that talks about how another writer is writing about, why can't my famous gender nonconforming friends get laid? And the writer Meredith Halsoon is explaining the situation, and the two friends, who I guess are famous in social media and so forth, are femme non-binary icons. But the situation is, despite that they're fabulous and the writer likes them herself and thinks that they're awesome people and that they're full of energy and just wonderful people, they can't find significant others. And this writer, Karol Markowicz, explains the situation that the two people that she's talking about present themselves as I got to get the details right, that they are and there's the rub, gay men like men, which the two people say they're not, and straight men like women, so that they wouldn't be interested in these two who present themselves as men. So then who is it for them to date? And this is the point that the author here explains. Everybody finds somebody that, for all the different possibilities, people find, but for some people it's going to be harder because how they approach the world, there are just fewer options, so then she's making point. Well, why doesn't the author of the other article that she's talking about be interested in them? And she's not interested in in people who present as men. So after trying to explain all this, the author in paragraph 8 says, attraction is mysterious, even in far simpler situations than this one. And it talks about a bunch of famous men who are men of color who are dating white women and writing about this, even though they're men who are very outspoken about social justice causes and so forth. They nevertheless are currently, or at the time of the art that they're making, with white women. So they write about and they make movies and tell their stories in their movies, like The Big Sick, and in stand-up comedy and so forth, about their own experiences. So this is the interesting thesis, idea, and interesting topic to discuss, where our author is making the point, as it says in the title, attraction will always defy social justice. So a person may wish logically to be attracted to someone of the same religion or of a different religion if you're trying to promote that cause and such. But this article is making the point, who you're attracted to may, in many cases, has nothing to do with what your social interests are. And sometimes it might even be the opposite of your interests. So you might be a champion of the rights of people of color, but who you happen to be attracted to may not fit that parameter. You might be interested in a white person, and vice versa. You might be a white person who is interested in promoting the cause of immigrants or people of color, and you wish that you were interested in dating someone, but you end up with a white person. So, and there are all these different possibilities. So speaking of myself, as a person who comes from a Jewish background, I'm not that Jewish at all, really, in practicing. But of course, I know many people who see themselves as very serious Jewish-minded people, but nevertheless, they have fallen in love and married non-Jewish people, because that's who they're attracted to, and that's where their heart has led them, despite where their head goes in terms of the time they spend thinking about issues of Jewish people and so forth. So it's an interesting thing, this idea about how who you're attracted to may not have anything to do with, in many cases, just beats in terms of what gets priority in a person, what their political desires are. So that's the topic that the article discusses. So then, of course, what I think is interesting here is what you think about these issues. So some of there's only one question: what is the main idea of this article? And I think I did my best here to try to explain that. So then some of my topics for essays are: how does one balance being who they are, not compromising oneself, with being attracted to others or someone in particular? Following conventions. You may want to be someone who's unconventional and goes, who falls for someone who's funky and dangerous or something, but the person you may end up, being attracted to is boring office worker person and so forth. You may want a conventional, boring life, but who you're attracted to might be that crazy, wild person. So again, this is the interesting thing. How does one balance out what they want to be or what they think they are to where their heart and their desire is? Next one is: the article asserts that people cannot control who they're attracted to. Well, it asserts it. I seem to be asserting that I agree with it. But what do you think? I mean, do you have control? Is a person able to know their know this is what I believe, this is who I am. So therefore, I'm going to make sure I find someone whose political views agree with mine. So speaking again, for me personally, it's inconceivable for me to think that I could be with a Republican person, a woman who's a Republican, someone who has conservative values. I find that just unimaginable. I just find it unimaginable. But if I wasn't married, and if I somehow was, looking to meet women, and I met a woman who was a strict conservative, and that's where my heart went, it would be a very interesting challenge for me, because I just right now, I mean, it's easy since it's not an issue for me to just think, oh, never, no way. But you never know. You never know what could happen. So it's but does a person have control? Would I have control? Say, yes, she's very pretty, and we get along really well, and I feel myself swooning. But the fact that she voted for Trump is a deal breaker. I'd like to believe that that's true, but can you control it? That's the question here. How much should we be led by our attraction? And I'm mainly thinking that sometimes we're attracted to people who we know are bad for us. So it's an interesting thing to think. This is where I'm sort of springboarding off the article. So the article is maintaining you can't control who you're attracted to. That we feel attraction, and it might defy our political desires, our social justice desire, our social justice wishes. Well, put that aside for a second. What is it when you feel an attraction for someone, but ultimately you realize this person's bad for me? This person's bad because they're taking me down a road where it's hurting my self-esteem or hurting your bank account. If they're mistreating you in some way with your finances and such, how much control do we have? So sometimes people, they know they're being treated badly, and it doesn't have to be so extreme as being physically abused. You could just be in a relationship where it's making you feel bad, but nevertheless you feel this this passion for this person. Well, at what point is it this is too much? I got to cut this off, or can you? I mean, do people just say, I go with my heart, and if my heart takes me through hell, so be it? But if you don't think that your heart should take you through hell, and you can have control when some mental health should kick in, I can't do this to myself. Well, then let's get back to the article. Can you go back to, well, this person's great, but this person doesn't suit my political vision of how I see myself. I'm going to redirect my attraction to someone who's more fitting to my social justice expectations. Similarly, can you readjust yourself to dating a more practical person? You might say, oh, I feel that this person doesn't have a good job, or this person is never going to become successful enough to be a good practical partner for me, so I'm going to cut off my attraction, save it, and I'm only going to let myself be attracted to people of the same education, or people who are going to provide well enough for me to be a good partner for me. Is that possible? And what do we think of that? Because again, if you can control your attraction well enough to direct it towards someone who's a good practical partner, then maybe you can control it well enough to direct it in ways of social, your social justice leanings and such. All right, there you go. These are my thoughts on the subject. Thank you very much.